On today's episode, left off the map, we're heading into the Tarkine region of Tasmania. Now, the Tarkine region is one of the oldest, old-growth temperate forests in the world. It's also known as Tarkine, and we're heading there today with Henry Terry and David Goff. They're going to have a look at a whole lot of native ingredients, the stories behind the Tarkine, and they're also going to cook with some native ingredients, in particular, wallaby. They're going to roast some wallaby on the fire, which led me to thinking we should do a roast here today as well. Now, most people aren't going to be able to access wallaby. So if you can't access wallaby, I'm going to show you a great substitute, which is a lamb shoulder. So I've got a 4/4 or the front half of a lamb shoulder here, and we're going to roast this slowly and then make a sauce to go with it. So pop your lamb. This is bone in. You can get a rolled shoulder roast, which has all the bone taken out and it's rolled up, but this is bone in, and I find you always get more flavour if you leave the bone in. It's going to take a little bit longer to cook, but you'll be thankful for it in the end. And I've trimmed some of the fat off. So these areas here where you can see I've gone through with a knife and taken some excess fat, there's a little bit more probably here that I can get. Now, there is a lot of natural fat in lamb. So if there are bits that you can get off, I would suggest taking them off. So these extra little bits, the fat in lamb can be quite cloying, a little bit not sinewy, a little bit almost like it's got lanolin in it. It's not a great mouthfeel. So if you can get rid of that excess fat on the outside, then do it. Baking paper and foil, wrap your shoulder up. Now you could marinate this if you wanted to, but I reckon if you've got a good lamb shoulder, there's nothing more that you need to do. You could throw some vegetables in there if you wanted to, completely up to you. I just want pure lamb flavour. So pop that into the oven. 140 degrees for about 3 to 3.5 hours if you want it falling off the bone, which is what you want with a lamb shoulder. So while that does its thing, I'm going to make a green olive sauce. So for the green olive sauce, I've got 2 lots of olives. I've got one that I've had soaking in water. That's what we're going to blitz up. I've got some extra olives here if I need to add it to thicken our sauce. To make your sauce, you just need a stick blender and a jug. Pop your olives and your water into your stick blender. Well, that's not your stick blender, into your jug that you're going to use your stick blender on. Then I want some coriander. This is parsley. It's half a bunch of parsley that's been blanched. So put into hot water for about a minute, taken out, and then put into cold water to cool down. Then had all the water squeezed out, and we've got blanched parsley. In some salt. I'm going to blitz that, and then I'm going to add 1 egg white to it. To our sauce, I added an egg. And that's as an emulsifier, so we want the water and the fat that you're about to add in the oil to come together. So I've added an egg, some olive oil, and then some lemon juice, and just blitz that, and added some seasoning, so some salt, add pepper if you want to. I'm gonna put salt and pepper in the lamb itself though. So just enough seasoning to make sure that you can taste the flavors that are in there, the parsley, the olive, and the lemon juice. The salt will actually lift those flavors up so that you can taste them, and that's done. So now the recipe just requires a slow roasting our lamb shoulder to the point where we can pick it off the bone. This sauce gets folded through your lamb shoulder, and that's basically the dish. And it's a really yummy take on a classic roast. Now, if you've got lamb shoulder on the bone, you don't really need to do much to it but cook it. Don't worry about throwing lemons in there and rosemary and thyme and oil and salt. There is so much flavour in the lamb itself. Cook it, shred the meat, and then add some seasoning and some flavour then. If you put everything in there with it now, you're just going to waste it. It's going to roast for so long that all those flavours are going to disappear. You won't taste them in the meat whatsoever. We can sometimes overcomplicate simple things. So now we're going to catch up with Henry and Dave as they roast some wallaby over the charcoal.
G'day, Dave. I'm Henry.
Hi, Henry.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Yeah. So, Dave, tell me a little bit about Tiagarra.
Well, firstly, I'll say ya, which is hello, and ya palingana, welcome to Tiagarra.
Ya palingana.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Thank you very much.
So, so Tiagarra, it's probably one of the oldest Aboriginal keeping places in Australia. It was opened in 1976. Which is by Sir Douglas Nicholls, who was the Aboriginal Governor of South Australia. Tiagarra is an Aboriginal name that was recorded, which means to keep. So it's a word that means keep. So that's why it sort of refers to this place as a keeping place. And what we keep here is our culture, Aboriginal artefacts that refer to were made by our ancestors, as in stone tools. And we teach culture out of here. So it's mainly today, it's been used more as an educational place that we can share, and it's a community gathering place as well.
Okay. And what's your connection to Tiagarra?
My connection is, well, my family have been just up the river here since about 1847. My family line during the period of sort of colonisation and what happened here. It's a place where we survived as a family. So we're not the traditional people of this part of country. Punalapana people were the traditional people of this part of country, and my family were. I'm a Trawulway man, which is from the northeast of Tasmania. But through that period of time, we ended up here. We survived here, and it's our ongoing custodianship and caretaker of this part of country to look after it. So Tiagarra, for me, it's a cultural landscape, but it's right in the city of Devonport.
Incredible. Well, I'd love a look around, Dave. Are you able to show me the place?
For sure, I'd love
Awesome.
to.
Cool.
Yeah. This is a good sort of part of the inside the museum, the back of Tiagarra, where I sort of end up with the kids, and it's good because it's tactile. They can touch the skins, ask questions about what skins are here. I talk about what we do as far as not just killing animals, as you use all the animal, and we only take animals out of respect and feed our families, and we use the animal fat. Our people would use the animal fats to mix with ochre, which is the mineral here.
Yeah.
And my ancestors would cover themselves with this. We also call it Ballawini. It's a Tasmanian, one of the Tasmanian names for it. And it's a connection to country. It's part of our creation story and who we are, but also mixing with the animal fat helps keep us warm. Yeah, there's a lot of different sort of things here, from stone tools, talking about stone knapping and how we make our tools, how we make our spears and the different things that we make. When I'm teaching the kids, the boys all go, they all refer to these things as weapons. Yep. I like to call them hunting tools. So that's started its life as a casuarina or a she oak.
Right.
And that's a small tree, and this is the roots.
Okay.
So I'll go in, and actually we'll pick and choose a casuarina or a she oak. It's a 15, 20 foot high young sapling. Dig around it, expose the roots, chop the roots out. I'll let this dry. I don't force dry it by heat because I'll crack it. Okay. Shave it all down, shape it. Once it's nearly dry, then over a week, then I'll start to slowly heat it over a fire, which releases resins from the inside to the outside and goes through a hardening process. Right. Then I will rub it and pack it with grease and ochre. So there's a lot of process. It's in me relearning and redoing these things and teaching the kids. And so I'm a what they say, I'm a learner, a teacher, and a learner, because I'm trying to understand the full capacity of my ancestors and how they lived on the land for so many years. Because, people have ideas and conceptions about Aboriginal people as we're all the same, but all our family groups were diverse and different. So when it comes to Tasmania, we didn't have boomerangs here. We did have throwing sticks, sticks like this. There's different names that were recorded, but this, I'll call this a lagrana. Right. So a lagrana, and it's been chopped with stone tools to make a handle, a grip. Yeah. It's pointed, and throwing it to knock birds out of the sky when you sneak up around the swamps, or to take the legs and knock the legs out of wallaby.
Yeah, right. Smelling good.
Smelling good?
I love the smell of the fire. It's taking me back to when I was a kid.
Yeah, it kind of grounds us, the fire.
It does. What have you got there?
I've got some Ballawinnie, which is it's one of our names for the ochre, red ochre. And when I welcome someone, I always put a little bit on them and myself.
You're gonna pack me up.
No, I'm just going to put a little bit on you on the side. What I'll say is just a little bit on the sides there. I'll say you're a warrior.
I'm a warrior.
Yeah. So no, just
Take that.
yeah. So when I say hello, I say ya. When I say welcome, I say yapalingana.
Right.
Yapalingana, ya lumi, mapali, lumi, palawa pakana, milathina, tawana latrawita. I'm saying, so welcome gathering here on Aboriginal land.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. When you're cooking a wallaby in the fire, how do you know it's ready?
Well, look, I'm going to peel back a bit of the skin and just see what it looks like.
Because I do a little bit of cooking, but I tell you what, I've never cooked a whole wallaby on a fire before. It really does smell good.
Yeah. I'll just lay it on this bark here.
So you've cooked it in the skin, Dave. Why just cooking it whole in the skin like that?
Just sort of seals it almost like an oven bag. So when it's been blackened and cooked like this on the outside, it kills all the bacteria.
Yep.
Quite nice.
It looks really tender.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for having me, Dave. It's been amazing just to see where Aboriginals used to live and the way life used to be.
Yeah.
And teaching me a bit about your culture. It's and having me here, it's a real honour.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's been good hanging out with you.
Well, maybe we can cut this up and have a bit of a feed.
Yeah, let's do it.
That lamb dish is a great dish, but it needs something to go with it. So I'm going to show you how to smoke and roast some vegetables to go with the lamb. So we're outside today, it's a beautiful day. We've got our Ozpig smoker set up. Really, really simple system. You've got your fuel and your heat coming from the bottom. So I've got lump charcoal in there that we've caught, which is now creating smoke and heat that goes into this chamber. And that chamber is where we roast and smoke whatever it is that we're roasting and smoking. I've done ribs in there before, smoked salmon, I've cold smoked different ingredients. So it's a fantastic little system and it's very, very simple. So with our vegetables, we've got some red onion, some carrots and some broccolini. I need a little bit of olive oil. Some salt and lemon juice, so just the normal sort of dressing things. The Ozpig itself, the smoker, is going to do most of the work for us. So really, you've just got to get things started and then it takes over from there. This will take about 45 minutes. So it takes a little bit longer than if you were just roasting normally. It's just because you don't get the same amount of heat and the heat doesn't move the same way because it's not fan forced inside this chamber. So we'll give that all a little bit of a toss. Get out our roasting roasting racks. Put some of our vegetables on there. We don't want to overload the rack because you want the smoke to be able to move around all the vegetables and make contact with all the vegetables. So I'm going to put half on one. And I'll put the other half on the other rack. Like I said, now the smoker does most of the work for us. So we'll close that lid, seal it up. And you've got a few different options on how much smoke that you want to have in there. Because this is only going in for a small amount of time considering smoking. Most things are smoked sometimes up to a day, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. We're only smoking this for about 45 minutes. I'm going to leave this little smoking hatch closed. so it catches as much of that smoke in there as it possibly can. You've got your thermometer here. So at the moment we're on about 140 degrees. Now we've closed that door. That's going to build up. It'll get up to around about 180 degrees, so the baking sort of temperature. So it's going to be nice and hot in there. That smoke's going to be moving around, and we'll end up with some beautifully smoked vegetables. Now you may need to check your fuel. I reckon I've got enough fuel in there to get me through the 45 minutes of cooking. So I can close that up. And let it do its thing. I don't need to baste it. I don't need to worry about it. I can check on it to make sure it's going okay, that it's not going to be cooked any earlier, but it's going to take 45. You can leave it for an hour and a half if you wanted to, and it's just going to get better and better and better. So I'll check on that at about half an hour, make sure we're on track, then probably another 15 minutes, and they'll be ready to come out. And vegetables like that, cooked over flame or charcoal in a smoker, take on a flavour that you've never really had before with vegetables, so it's absolutely fantastic. So we'll check on that in a little bit, but this, with that lamb and that sauce, is going to make for a fantastic shared sort of family meal. Well, from one roast to another roast and now to another. So we've seen a roast, normal roast in an oven. We've seen a roast over the charcoal, and now I'm going to do a pot roast. I'm going to pot roast some chicken Marylands. First thing I want to do is get some colour on my Marylands though. I think if you're doing roast like this, Marylands are the best cut. They stay nice and moist. Most people, if you're going to roast, it means you're going to cook for a long time. The breast, those sorts of things can't really stand up to being cooked for a long period of time. So some oil in my pot. I'm going to brown this chicken, so skin side down. Cook that on both sides until it's nice and golden brown. Then we're going to take our chicken back out and put our mirepoix in. So I've got some onions, some shallots, and some carrots. Dice those, pop them in, saute them off, and then add some tomato paste. Now I've got some colour on my legs and my Marylands. Take those out. Now I can pop my vegetables back in. I just want to saute those off until they start to soften. Once they've started to soften, I'll add my tomato paste and my chicken will go back in. Then my herbs, got some dried mushrooms, which is where most of the flavour in our little stock is going to come from. So these dried mushrooms, once we put the stock on them, will release all of their flavour into the stock, and we'll end up with a beautiful, almost gravy that'll go with our pot roasted chicken. And I'm going to add some fusilli pasta, which will turn a pot roast into a whole meal. So everything that comes out of the pot will then be able to be eaten as a meal. I've added my tomato paste, my stock, and my dried mushrooms in there. Final things are my pasta. About 1.5 cups of fusilli. And then my herbs. A couple of sprigs of thyme and a couple of bay leaves. Pop those in. Give all that a stir. And then into the oven for about an hour. So you want to have your oven set above boiling, obviously. So you need it to be about 140 to 160 and check on it from about half an hour onwards. You want the meat to be falling off the bone, you want the mushrooms to be tender, and you want the pasta to be tender.